book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some underhyped books I have on my TBR. Videos talking about the popular books I have not yet read. There are also some books that are not that hyped that I haven't read, and there could be multiple reasons why I haven't read them, whether it be a hyped release comes out and I have no time to read them, or maybe they're just not hyped enough and people haven't praised them enough, but I'm still intrigued by the synopsis to unhold them, if that makes sense. I just figured that this would be a very interesting topic to discuss because I'm so used to either doing or watching videos about booktubers talking about the books that are popular that they haven't read. I wanted to do something different because there are a lot of underhyped books that I haven't yet read, and I want to get to these books as much as I want to get to the books that are hyped on my TBR. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna get started with my stack of books I selected for this video today. First off, I want to talk about a chunker of a series, and that is the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chimer. Now, I personally want to pick this series up because Reagan from Peru's Project hypes it up, but I hear nobody else hype it up. I literally hear nothing else about the series, and she loves it with a fiery, burning passion. And I don't know, I kind of want that fiery, burning passion for myself, and when I found out that they sell a box set, that was when I was just like, hey, I'm buying it. The funny thing about purchasing this series is the fact that I'm really not a fan of the covers at all. Like, everybody keeps on talking about how they hate that Flamecaster changed the cover designs. I actually prefer those cover designs. I don't like these ones that much, but I'm picking this series up because it's been recommended from a reviewer that I trust. And yeah, that's the only reason. I haven't actually seen that much hype about the series in the booktube community. So that kind of explains my lack of motivation towards this book, but at the same time, I do have some sort of motivation. A lot of people keep on saying that this is a very dense book series. Maybe that's the reason why I haven't picked this book series up yet, but I need to get to it, hence why I've kept it on my TBR, and I'm definitely not unhauling it anytime soon. And speaking of underhyped series, it is such a surprise that this series is underhyped because these authors are very hyped up authors, but it is a very underhyped series, as I will be mentioning it today. So the next underhyped book series I have on my TBR would be the Magisterium series by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. The book that I'm holding up is the Copper Gauntlet because I've read the Iron Trial, but I need to continue on with this series. I'm actually planning on picking this book up because it completes one of my Lovers YA challenges, so I've decided for myself that I will most likely be picking up this co-authored book because that is the challenge prompt. I think the reason why this is underhyped is the fact that it is a middle grade and it's completely different from the premises of their other books. Like, Cassandra Clare is best known for her Shadowhunters universe, and Holly Black is best known for her books about fae and some other paranormal creatures, whereas this book takes place in a school full of wizards. Yeah, so I personally decided that I really want to continue on with this series. It's long overdue. I think the last time I read a Magisterium book, which is the first book, I read it like 2 years ago. So I need to continue on with this series this year and finish it because the last book is coming out this year. It needs to happen. The next underhyped book I will be mentioning on my TBR, I think, is also a middle grade, and that is the Crowns of Croswald by D.E. Knight. I received this book in a package from the publishing company sometime last year. It was such an awesome package, and I really enjoyed that unboxing. I really love this cover. Like, everything about the color palette is awesome, and it just sounded so intriguing. I'm pretty sure this book has to do with fairies and kingdoms, and it just sounded very awesome at the time that I got it. I really do still want to pick this book up and give it a shot. I think there was a sequel to this book that recently came out. That sounded really exciting, but unfortunately I haven't had the chance to pick it up, and I think that I should sometime. I feel like this book is underhyped because I feel like it was only mentioned in the booktube community when people received those boxes like myself, and so I personally want to challenge myself to read this book sometime because I personally find the premise very intriguing. And the next underhyped book I have on my TBR that I need to get to was a cover by, and that book is Zero Repeat Forever by G.S. Prendergast. Now, this cover does look very similar to the Fifth Wave, but not only that, like, it has neons all over it, and once I saw it had neons all over it, I was all over it. Even though this was a cover buy, I had to read the synopsis to justify the fact that I was pretty much buying it for the cover, and it's pretty much a post-apocalyptic Beauty and the Beast retelling. I like post-apocalyptic stuff if it is done right, so I'm personally hoping that this book is done right, and it looks like the Fifth Wave. It even says perfect for the fans of the Fifth Wave, and I'm number 4. So I'm curious, I'm intrigued, and I think that this underhyped book needs to be read. I swear I've only heard about it once on the booktube community, so I think it's about time that I need to read it for myself. And the next underhyped book I have on my TBR today, book lovers, was a book that was only just recently published in the US, but I still feel like like there wasn't as much hype surrounding it as there could have been, even when it was only published in the UK and Australia. And that is why I'm adding it to this list. And that book I'm talking about is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I've had this book on my TBR since it came out, mostly because of the cover and the fact that this book gives me Crest vibes. If you've read the Lunar Chronicles and then you read the synopsis, you understand why. It totally feels like another Crest story, and I'm here for it. I actually requested this book for review and the publisher forgot to send it to me, so I ended up purchasing it myself because the synopsis had me intrigued and the cover is just gorgeous. Although the cover is not the same in the US, the UK cover is gorgeous, but so is the US cover. Both covers are gorgeous. This book has gorgeous covers everywhere. It has a very intriguing synopsis. Why haven't I picked it up yet? I honestly don't know. And another underhyped book I have on my TBR is Flawed by Cecilia Ahern. If you guys don't know, Cecilia Ahern was the person that wrote P.S. I Love You and also Love Rosie, but she wrote a YA dystopian duology, and I feel like people were talking about it around the time that it came out, but it wasn't that hyped at all. And I think the reason why it wasn't that hyped was because YA dystopian was kind of dying down as a trend, but Cecilia Ahern had just jumped on the trend when the trend was slowly declining. That's why I personally think that there's barely any hype for this book series at all anymore, but I've heard from people that don't usually like YA dystopians that they really did like this YA dystopian, and I personally love dystopia. So I certainly definitely hope that I personally love this book series, and I intend to pick it up sometime. Here we go with another underhyped book on my TBR. The reason why I personally want to pick this up is because of the subject matter that it deals with that I think is definitely important to touch upon in YA literature. The book I'm talking about is Bad Romance by Hera Demetrios. Now I could easily say that I also bought this because of the cover and the spine, because both are amazing, but the main reason why I picked it up is because it deals with the heavy subject matter of a toxic relationship. And I read The Build-Up Season by Megan Jacobson. I didn't think that I would actually enjoy a book with that subject matter, but I did because I learned so much from it. And I'm kind of personally hoping that I have a similar experience with this book. Even though books like this are technically not easy to read, it's definitely books like this that I want to gain insight from. So that's the reason why it's on my TBR and I need to read it. And another underhyped book that I definitely want to get to sometime is Dare Mighty Things by Heather Krasinski. I was really intrigued by this cover originally. I mean, it looks kind of like a comic book kablam in a way. I'm in the minority here, but I really like this cover, and I feel like a lot of people don't, and that is kind of the reason why it is very underhyped. They don't like the look of it. And not only that, it actually came out around October, November-ish time last year, and there were so many more new releases that came out from more popular authors or just sequels in general, but people weren't paying attention to this book. But the premise sounded intriguing to me personally. I think it has to do with kids being sent to space. I have no clue, to be honest, but I picked this book up for some sort of reason, and what I gathered from the premise as soon as I read it was the fact that it was a sci-fi. So I was just like, sign me up. Even if no one's talking about it, I'ma read it. And another underhyped book is a contemporary. I really want to get to this one because Emma Books actually recommended it and I don't see anyone else talking about it. I actually purchased it from the library for 50 cents and it was a sign that I needed to buy it, and that is This Song Will Save Your Life by Layla Sales. I personally wanted to pick this up because apparently it deals with a lot of hard topics and how the power of music can change everything. That's all I pretty much know about this book besides the fact that our protagonist becomes a DJ. I was very curious about it because I personally love music. I was so passionate about music at some point in my life. Listening to music and making playlists was kind of like my hobby before this was my hobby. I was definitely more enthusiastic by music back in the day than I was books. And even though I'm very passionate about books and media now, I still have a very special place in my heart for music. And so I like how this book kind of incorporates that into it. That passion, that love for music, and how much music can change someone or like help someone out in a tough time. And that's why I personally want to read it, even if no one is really talking about it. And another book I have to mention on this list today is a book that it was written by an Australian author. If you know me very well, you'd know that I love to support my local authors. The book I'm talking about next is This Mortal Coil by Emily Savada. Apparently Emily Savada actually lives in the United States at the moment, but she is Australian, so it counts. I think this book also came out at around the time that other hyped releases were coming out left, right, and center, and so I feel like that's somewhat of the reason this book kind of fell under the bus for a bit. But I'm personally excited to get to it, not just because it's by an Australian author and I love to support my local authors, but because this is also a generic sci-fi and I've heard great things from a few booktubers out there. Not too many, but a few. That's why I put it on my TBR, and that's why I definitely want to get to it sometime. The second last book I'll be mentioning in this TBR video today, book lovers, will be a book that I feel like was hyped, not really hyped. It was barely hyped. It was only mentioned on like a couple of booktubers channels at some point. I think the publisher just sent it to them unsolicited or maybe as a paid promotion. I honestly do not remember. But again, I was personally intrigued because of its premise, and that is You Don't Know My Name by Kristen Orlando. I want to pick this book up because it has to do with spies. At one point in my life, before I wanted to be a superhero, I wanted to be a spy. Actually, no, I don't remember which came first, because I wanted to be a superhero because of Larry Boy. But I wanted to be a spy because of Kim Possible. Man, this is hard. I don't know which came first, but I wanted to be one or the other. I think there was one point in my life where I stopped thinking about the fact that I wanted to be a superhero, and I started thinking about the fact that I do want to be a spy, like Kim Possible was. She was a spy or agent, whatever. At one point in my life, I wanted to be one of the two. And the fact that there's a YA book out there with this premise about being a spy, like a teenage girl being a spy, that was enough to sell this book to me. That was the reason why I picked it off the shelf. As soon as I heard it, I think I first heard it on Jesse the Reader's channel, and when he explained the synopsis to me, I was just like, get this book in my hands right now. I mean, I couldn't find it in Australian bookstores, but once I did, it was mine. I originally thought that this book was gonna be a standalone, but turns out it's a trilogy, and the second book's already out. The third book is coming out next year. I really do need to get to this series because it has to do with spies. There's no other reason to it. The final underhyped book I will be mentioning on my TBR today, book lovers, at least for today. Maybe I might do another part to this video sometime because I do have some more underhyped books in my TBR. Let's be real. Will be Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I mean, this one is arguable. Like, some people say that this is very hyped and some people don't say this is very hyped. Personally, I do think that this is somewhat underhyped. It's actually very funny because one day our Biblio Squad crew was discussing future book picks of the month. This one came up in discussion and I personally wasn't interested in it. In the month we could have read this book together, we ended up reading Empress of a Thousand Skies by Rhoda Belleza, and that book isn't bad, but it had more negative reviews than this book, and so I thought that this book was gonna have more negative reviews. I honestly don't know why. I just wasn't intrigued by it, but then all of a sudden I became intrigued when the reviews were amazing for it. And so that's when I personally decided that I needed to stop thinking negatively about this book and actually try it out for myself. And I think that the second and final book has already come out, so I think it would be awesome if I binge read this duology and I proved G-Swizz wrong. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you want to purchase any of the books that I mentioned in this video today, all the Book Depository purchase links will be down in the description so you can check them out, you can purchase them, and you can help me out by doing so. And I also have social medias. I'm at G-Swizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.